Okay, so today our topic is of our involvement happy hour is religious and spiritual groups on campus. And what I'm going to do is do a brief screen share just really quickly. I'm not going to go back through exactly how to utilize RamPulse because you guys are pretty on top of that from utilizing it and seeing it. I'm just going to click to the main page and show you the button that I didn't mention last time that's on the home landing page is right here. And some people have trouble finding it, but that's your fastest route to get to RamPulse, which is our one-stop shop for student engagement to find all the opportunities. So once you are here, you can go to the organizations button and you can search for organizations that you might be interested in. And in our category right now, you can also search, I didn't mention this before, you can search for types of groups depending on what their interests might be. So if I wanted to know about things that are only community service, I could click that button and hit search. If I am looking for things that are religious and spiritually focused, I hit that button and they all show up on the right. So it's an easy, quick shortcut to get us to those groups. So the groups that we're going to be looking at today are the ones that are kind of listed here on the screen. We've got a wide variety of options for you. And I'm going to break for a second, pull this down, stop share, and I'll pull it back to the screen share again in just a minute. So out of the groups that we have on campus, here are the ones that are currently recognized. And I will give this with a caveat that often student clubs and organizations come and go. I mentioned in the last session when anime was all the rage, we had this anime group, and then when those people seniored out and graduated, we no longer had that group anymore. As things come and go, we get students with different interests, and that's how it should be. Like it ebbs and flows based on what you want and what you're interested in. So today's focus is on religious and spiritual groups. The ones that are currently registered are Campus Ministry International. And Campus Ministry International is really a prayer group. They're a Bible study and prayer group. And that is their full focus. And you can contact them. There are some of our spiritual and religious groups that are focused on being actively like finding communities, small communities of faith that share a common interest. Some of them are much broader. So I'll explain as we go through kind of what the flavor of each one is. So Campus Ministry International is really focused on just Bible study and prayer in a Christian tradition. That's their approach. And you can check their RamPulse page for more info. Common Ground has been around probably as one of our oldest spiritual and religious groups on campus. They're a Christian faith-based group. They do a lot of different types of activities. Some of them are student outreach oriented, like where they will set up and try to give students rides if they needed them. Like they would bring in their church van and try to give them rides to places like the grocery store, to Walmart, just trying to provide a resource to help students out when they needed it. They also have sponsored some special outreach kinds of events, dinners. I know they do a lot of those. They're affiliated primarily with Covenant Church that's on the road on the way toward Harper's Ferry and on Flowing Springs Road. That's the road. They are affiliated with that church. They do a lot of connected in work with them. So for example, before Thanksgiving, they always do like a Friendsgiving dinner for everyone and try to provide food to those who need it. Some of the things they do are service-based, but really it's about building community and connection. So a lot of students reaching out with community members trying, I think, too, to give them support where they need it. Connections, I'm going to hold on and let Morgan talk about that one because she's very much a part of it. And Fellowship of Christian Athletes. The Fellowship of Christian Athletes is really what it sounds like it is. FCA is a national organization. It's super active on campuses across the country. They meet weekly, and their meetings are a mix of prayer group. Every meeting has some sort of inspirational talk kind of component to it, plus a spiritual kind of Christian-based prayer component built into it. And they really are about building community and supporting one another. You do not have to be an athlete to join FCA. It's open to other people, but it really has been traditionally focused on athletes. In the past, that group always met in the Butcher Center. Because of the pandemic, now we are moving everybody into virtual meetings as much as possible, which has some advantages because the access issue becomes less problematic, or transportation, or those kinds of things. They also have done some special events that involve like bringing in, a band and having a cool fun day with like a dance party and a band. And so they do some interesting programming as well. Good Shepherd Catholic Campus Ministries is right up the corner from us. If you go past Stutzman Sloaniger and you turn the corner on High Street, they have a house there that's called the Good Shepherd House, and that's the home base for the Good Shepherd Catholic Campus Ministries. That space has traditionally provided services to students. They've kept a pretty open door policy. If you wanted to come in and utilize the kitchen, they would have a brownie baking night, or they would have, tonight we're having an international food night where we're going to invite some of our international students to come in and share what their favorite foods are. They would often have mass available there. Instead of having to stop and go to the church, you could have it right there next to you on campus. They do Ash Wednesday there. So pretty much it's the local, our Shepherd Catholic Church in Shepherdstown, it's their outreach sort of branch right here. And they're here to do some programming, but mostly it's, faith-based stuff that they're doing. They also have been a really good partner to some of the other groups on campus that studied things like human trafficking. They're very active in anti-human trafficking movement. And they've hosted Let Their Space Be Used for groups that need a space to meet, because they recognize that sometimes you just need a place to go. And so that's been another kind of nice thing, to have a physical, like, bricks and mortar building that's open. They have a huge backyard that's right beside our patio. So it's a great place for socially distancing. It's a good space for that too. Ratio Christi, I'm not sure if they're going to be active this year because their previous leadership has graduated. But that particular group is about apologetics, which it's sort of philosophical. It's the idea of debating ideas, Christian concepts, and debating them in rational ways, and analyzing like meanings of words, and thinking about how this plays out. Like, how could this be true? If this is true, how could this be true? And so it's almost like people who are in law school often have Socratic debate, and it's very much like that. It's a group that has this conversation where they debate one another back and forth about really important ideas in Christianity to try and come to conclusions or shared, realizations together. Again, coming from a Christian point of view. Shepherd University Pagans is one of the non-Christian groups in this listing. Their leadership has just recently turned over because all of their former exec board has graduated and left us. And they really are focused on traditional kind of nature-based faith and finding spiritual connections in nature. So that organization is currently, if people are interested in reactivating it, we just need 5 students to get it started again. And their advisor is still willing to serve as their advisor, but we just need to know that there are students who want to pick that up and take it and go organize it again. That group was open to everyone, regardless of faith background. We had people that were Christian students who were participating just because it was an interesting dialogue for them. And thinking about like how it's very much thinking about how do we respect all, human beings and find ways to like treat people inclusively. So a support kind of group in that space. The Secular Student Alliance, that is currently another one that doesn't have, I don't think it currently has active members. So it may survive or it may go defunct. We're just waiting to see what this year looks like. it has an advisor who's also committed to sort of supporting it. Secular Student Alliance is for people who believe in not religion, who just are not about religion at all, but believe in spirituality and connection of all human beings, and finding ways to like find relationship with one another without being, I think, in a particular faith track, without having to commit to that particular faith track. And so that group has a lot of different perspectives in it, because you have people that are, you know, agnostic or atheist, and people who are kind of science thinkers that are not particularly spiritual thinkers, but finding ways to understand how to navigate the world in their own way and find meaning in their own way. Torrance is a prayer group that really has formed where they do shared common reading of a particular passage or a section, and they do really, it's just about finding spiritual connection with other people in a small prayer group. And we have a couple of those, because like, how is that different than Campus Ministry International? Everybody kind of has their own comfort level of what feels right for them. Like, where do I find my connection? Where am I going to find a place where I feel like I belong? And that's different. So it really, we are never going to sort of shut it off and say, oh, you can only have one prayer group on campus. You need to have lots of varieties, because people approach things in different ways and have different levels of comfort in different spaces. So that's why you're going to see several groups that might repeat in theme, but just feel a little bit different. Young Life, and I'm going to let Brady talk a little bit. Could you talk a little bit about Young Life and what they're about? I can preface by saying Young Life College is a national organization. It's found at campuses across the country. And it's really about helping students find community and home on their campuses in a super fun, like not churchy way at all, but it is still from a very Christian point of view. So Brady, you want to explain what that might look like? I'll stop sharing so we can see you.
So Young Life is, like you said, it's a very fun group that's not immediately like what you might think about like a church. Basically, the best way I can describe it is, even if you're not a Christian, you can go there and still have a good time. There's food, we play games, and sing songs, all that sort of stuff. And there is a message with ties to the Bible and all of that stuff at the end. But what's really more important is just, like you said, building kind of community, that sort of thing that can make students feel more comfortable. And it's just a good environment with friends, basically.
They are a super high energy group. Their leaders, one of their leaders is a Shepherd alumnus named Joel Heslop, and Joel is so dynamic and full of energy and positive vibe. And he and his wife are two of the co-facilitators of the group. They do a lot of fun things. They also always involve music. Like, it almost always involves music. And the music is not always churchy music. Like, you're not going in and hearing hymns. You're hearing pop anthems that you hear on the radio. So it might be, you know, Katy Perry. It might be, you know, something that's, you know, super contemporary. And they have people that perform live music. They do a lot of fun games and activities, things that we would think of as like icebreakers, community builders. Their events used to be behind my office, and through the wall, all I heard was laughter and lots of like hooping and yelling and just people having a really, really good time. There have been events when they would turn their meeting room into a rave for the night and have lights and glow sticks and, you know, just lots of fun kind of stuff. It is a Christian-based group, and so there's always like a tie back to Christianity or a tie back to sort of that perspective and the idea of like modeling what does, you know, love look like, what does compassion and caring and all those things look like, but really in a super fun kind of approachable way. So a lot of their stuff also would involve like a barbecue and volleyball, or we would have, you know, things that would happen outside that you would see them. They're very visible. They do a lot of outreach, which students really appreciate, like kind outreach, like bringing in, an Italian ice truck and giving out Ritas, or, having coffee on the corner when it's cold, trying to find things that just sort of really reach students and serve them, because that's the motto, is that idea of service. So that gives you a little bit of info about Young Life. Do you want to add anything that I might have missed about Common Ground, Brady?
So with Common Ground, basically what Common Ground's like, it's basically an environment where you can just come and hang out for a while, relax. Someone's parents usually bring food so you can eat. But it's just a really relaxed environment. Sometimes we might we might have like a 15-minute discussion on our faith or whatever. But we play games, we just hang out. It's incredibly casual, laid back. So I definitely recommend it if you ever need a chill pill.
Awesome. So, and it's a lot of fellowship. Yeah, it's definitely that.
Like how Young Life is really hyped and exciting, Common Ground's chill and relaxing. Like
good way to describe them. Yeah, because Young Life is hype. Like they're like, woohoo, let's have some fun, and it's a constant like, let's go. And it is much more casual, like much more relaxed. Yeah, the tones are just different. So I'm going to toss to Morgan, Morgan Sell over here is one of our advisors. She is the advisor of Connections, which is now Shep Connections. And she's going to talk about why it's Shep Connections and tell us a little bit about that group. And then I'm going to ask her to share a couple things because she's also an alumnus. So
sure. So my name is Morgan Sell. I am first and foremost a mother of two children, wonderful children, Patch and Cormac, who are 7 and 3. But I'm also a community organizer based in Jefferson County, working to preserve and protect the quality of life for all here in the county. And I am the director of campus ministry at Shepherdstown Presbyterian Church. And so this is a new position for me. I started in August, and I am really excited to work with Shep, what's now being called Shep Connections, because I am an alumni of Shepherd, and I actually was a part of Connections as a college student. And so it feels like it's a very full circle experience for me, having been included into Connections, which is primarily a listening group, but I'll explain more about them in a second. And then kind of coming full circle to be able to help lead, which is crazy, lead these students who have so much life and so much to offer. I'm super grateful. So I'll just read a description, and then I will share some pages. Does that sound good? Cool. All right, so Shep Connections supports the spiritual growth of Shepherd University students in a non-denominational setting. We seek primarily to build and nurture community and compassion among ourselves while providing an inclusive space for our LGBTQIA+ students and allies. So as a Shepherd University group, we are grounded in radical hospitality, holistic spirituality, and engaged compassion, working to celebrate and welcome all faith traditions. And I wish I could underline that because that's super important to our group. We are what we hope to be a progressive faith voice on Shepherd University campus that values that inclusiveness and pride for all. So we meet bi-weekly online via Zoom, and then also once per month, we gather with takeout from our local Blue Moon and meet on campus at the old in-ground amphitheater is where we're hoping to meet, right behind the Irma Ora Bird building to have a nice distance gathering. So I'm going to go ahead and share a couple pages here. Here you can see, and let me make this smaller so I can actually toggle back and forth. Can you guys see that at all? Okay, so that's just a description. And okay, so on Facebook, you can see there are two kind of things that you can find. One is a public group, and it's titled Shep Connections, if you want to search for it. And this has been primarily used before to gather students and to connect. There she is introducing me, my wonderful mentor, Ethel Hornbeck, who used to lead Connections. So she was introducing me to the group, and it's just a good place to allow people to share their voices. And then on the other Facebook page, Shep Connections, that'll be kind of a one street page just for Shep Connections to post, events or articles that they find empowering for all. And then finally, our Instagram is so small, but I put up all the collection of pictures over the years. Connections was founded around 2008, so it's been on Shepherd University campus a little over, 12 years now. So really a great group. You can see in the past they've taken a trip to Montreat, which was a student group kind of field trip that people went on. And so they got to meet with other students from all around the country. It was really just a powerful experience. And we also are really grounded in community service. Here we are working with folks that are experiencing homeless in the county, as well as really big on mindfulness and just outside gatherings as well. So hopefully we can continue to do some of that in the year 2020. I know it's going to be a little bit different, but I'm here for it. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. Like I said at the beginning, our group is primarily a listening group. If I would say one thing that I learned the most as a college student going to this, we would meet at Blue Moon and sit around the table and talk to each other and listen to each other. And this is people from all faith traditions and all backgrounds. And I'm very short attention span. And so I got really good at quieting myself and listening. And that was really challenging for me. But I remember sitting there and listening to everybody in the group. And when I did, I walked away with such a large perspective on life, and people's vulnerability while they were sharing in that space was really a gift. And so as the director now, I'm hoping to really foster that safe space to cultivate vulnerability within Shepherd University students and give people a place to do that. And we love spirituality, we love astrology, all kinds of things. So we look forward to meeting anybody and everybody this year. And I open any questions, or Rachel, what else should we do here?
So one of the things that I have really, I think you just summed it up really nicely, and you did a great job, Morgan, for your first pitch. That was great. You did a really good job. Giving us a feel for what the organization is and what it's going to be in the future. One of the things that I really enjoy about this particular group is it's unique in our faith and spiritual based groups because it is non-denominational. Even though Morgan is affiliated now in her new job with Shepherdstown Presbyterian Church, she's still, this group has always had Muslim students, Christian students, non-believing students who are agnostic or atheists. Yeah. I mean, it's always had all of these perspectives coming to it because the whole focus was on connections and on listening to one another. And that's a pretty cool thing to have on your campus, because what comes out of that is a whole lot of space for learning. Which is our end outcome right here, is that we want people to grow as citizens and humans, to be able to understand and engage with people with different points of view, and to respect and honor difference and those different points of view. So it's kind of great that I feel very fortunate that we get Morgan, because Morgan's an alumnus of us, and I feel very proud to see her kind of take this full circle too. And I was going to ask Morgan if you would be willing to speak just for a minute about, as a student when you came in, you were a Shepherdstown kid. So you came from here. You didn't have to go to a new place and find a whole brand new community. Like Alyssa spoke in the earlier session about coming from far away and needing to find clubs and organizations, because that's how she found connection, because she really literally was in a whole new world where she didn't know anybody. You came from right here, but yet you chose to get involved in things here at Shepherd. And how did getting involved in things impact you and your career at Shepherd versus I said sometimes if you go to class and you go home, go to class and you go home, yeah, you're getting your degree and you're checking the things off your box, but you miss the deep learning. Like you miss that part, and it can be 13th grade for you. So how did that affect you, your involvements on campus?
Sure. And so full disclosure, I was an art student, and then I picked a second degree up later on during the time that I was at Shepherd with art education. And so I was a double major, BFA and BA at the end of it, and I spent 5 years there. For the first year, at least, I did not participate in any groups. I was like full in on the art side of things, and I was just totally, I guess, immersed in this new college life. And I didn't know what I was missing. And then once I traveled over, because when you're on the art side, you're primarily like kind of on that side of campus. And so a lot of the student groups, I was missing out on their activities and their, outside gatherings and things like that. And so when I went over and started to become involved in the groups, it was almost like an immersion into the life of Shepherd University that I hadn't experienced yet. So I joined Rotaract with Holly Fry. And I think that, aside from maybe a couple things I did in high school, that was really like the beginning of community service for me in my life. And not only that, it was the beginning of some friendships that kind of lasted till this day. And so there's a certain professionalism that you gain when you start to join these student groups and you start making those bonds and these connections with people that could be future employers, future coworkers, whatever you want. You're making, you're learning things and gaining. The multicultural group was always intermixed with the Rotaract, and so we were always learning from each other. And I just, like, when I'm talking to people now, I tell people to get involved in a group early on, like first year, so that you don't have to have that weird kind of transition period that I had, so that you can go straight into having a group of people that are like-minded and also understand the power of community. So especially if you're from out of town. But since I was from Shepherdstown, I benefited immensely, just because you know how it goes when you're from somewhere. You got to find new people no matter what.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure
if
thing.
anyone has any questions that you want to ask, please feel free to either, if you're nervous about it, drop it in the chat, or if you want to ask out loud, that's fine too.
And I will go ahead and just drop my email in the chat. Feel free to send me an email if you'd like, or find me on Facebook. My name is Morgan Sell. Yeah. And Chef Connections, you can get a hold, like if you go to the Rampulse and you click join or follow or something, that should send an email to my alumni RAM account. So I'll get it either way. But thank you so much.
Well, I will add something. I try to be quiet in the beginning because I'm from somewhere else. But I like that I didn't hear anything yet about a GPA in this group. Because for some of us, all of us can people hear me? Okay.
Yes, sure can.
Because in all the other groups, I heard things about GPAs. So I'm really concerned. I hope it doesn't ever affect me. But if you can't keep your GPA up, then you can't be in a group. You can't bond. You can't. Elisa mentioned several times about you had to 2.75 or 2.5. I hope that never applies to me, but if it ever would, I can't make these friendships. I can't, maybe some of those people in the group could help you study or could help you with other things. And so I think that's kind of a disadvantage in a way, because I think we do need each other. And I think if those GPAs are going to keep you out, because you have to keep a certain GPA to keep your financial aid, I think it's 2.0. So even to be on campus. So I know that you guys don't make the rules, but whoever make the rules, I think maybe they should reconsider some of that, because we need each other. And I don't think that you have to be brilliant or that should be a requirement.
Thank you for bringing that
Think
up.
outside the box. I'm one of those who think outside the box a little bit.
It's
And I
great.
love the non-denominational and all of that.
That's
But
awesome.
I just think that that's just such a high, you know, especially when you're first coming in, that you have to worry about so many things to be able to bond.
Yeah. Well, let me share with you, the only group where GPA requirements are high is really in fraternity and sorority life. And the reason why it's set up that way is because they know that in order to join, there's the standard of like, you're going to have to do this many hours of community service. You're going to have to do this many meetings. You're going to have at least 2 every week, so that you don't want to take people when they come in the door, especially as new students. We don't want to set them up to fail, like to come in and they're not solid. Like, we want you to be solid academically in order to join a fraternity or a sorority, or a professional sorority or fraternity where it's higher. I will say all of the rest, so that's 11 out of the 83 or 84 that we have that have those high standards of GPA requirements. So there are 11 that have kind of high ones. There's also professional academic honoraries, and that's kind of like a National Honor Society for whatever your field is. So if it's in, you know, political science, if you're invited into the Political Science Honor Society, your GPA has to be high because that's like the top, you know, 10% of the class that's in that major kind of gets invited into that. But all of the rest of them, and that's probably more than 50 groups that are out there, if it's a special interest group, if it's just a club that's based on a shared community interest, the spiritual and religious groups, there are 0 GPA requirements to go to those groups and join those groups and find fellowship or connection, because we get that like you need to find a place to have a home.
Yes.
We just don't want you majoring entirely in social, because that has happened as well, where we have some students who come in and like they excel at extracurricular college. Like they are awesome at people. That's their strength, is people. So they may do 5 kinds of community service, and they volunteer for every committee that ever existed, and they want to be part of student government, and they do all these things. But then when it comes to class, like they forgot that like class was sort of a priority. So they don't do their academic stuff and they drown. So just to reassure you, out of the groups that we have, pretty much 53 of them have no GPA requirement. So for the groups that are in this circle, there's no GPA requirement to be part of them. There's no really any commitment demand. All of these groups are also free without dues. You don't have to pay anything to join any of them. Some groups have dues that are pretty small, like in the special interest groups, there might be dues that are, oh, Morgan, I absolutely love your comment in the chat. She just said you have to bring your heart to connections. That's the only thing. I love it. Thank you, Morgan. Morgan is my other self. So I feel like there are most groups out there, it's pretty inexpensive, or it's not got a barrier as far as GPA. It's pretty easy. So if I wanted to be part of like the visual arts collective that looks at like contemporary art or critiques and helps each other on art, you don't have any requirement there. And you may not have to even pay any dues to be part of that group. To be part of, I think Brady's been part of the Living History Club, and there's no fee for that, right? Do you have to pay anything to do it? Might have been like $10 or.
I can't remember how much it was, but I think that it does have dues.
Okay.
And so does Phi Alpha Theta, I believe, too.
Mm-hmm. And theirs aren't very big. I know they're pretty small. So generally it's not going to be expensive the way that some of the other organizations out there might be, like national fraternities and sororities might be more. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. It was lovely to have you.
Thank you.
Thanks
I really
for being
appreciate it. Is there any other questions before I hop off? Cool.
You're good to
Well,
go.
feel free to find me on Facebook. Thank you so much.
Thank
Rachel.
you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. Nice to meet you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, for bringing up that question, because it's a really good one. And we definitely don't want anyone to feel like, oh, there's going to be no way for me to be involved. There's totally lots of ways for you to be involved. Just so you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? Are you good? Anything you want to add? Well, I appreciate all of you for being here today. Thanks for coming and being part of it. We do have 4 other sessions that are tomorrow. One's focused on community service and service organizations. One's focused on leadership and leadership organizations. One large one that's about academic groups, academic honoraries, and academic study kind of focused groups. Things like our accounting club, you know, if you're a person, a student who's studying accounting, how do I get involved with that? Here's how you learn about it. And I know their advisor is coming with all kinds of info for particular disciplines. English has a group called Sigma Tau Delta that's an English society. Those groups will all be there tomorrow. So come on back for that if you're interested in that. And what's our 4th one, Alyssa? What am I forgetting? Is the ones I was thinking of right off the top of my head.
Excuse me, and what time is those?
We only have 3 tomorrow.
Oh, it is just 3. Okay, so I did name them all. So the times on those are...
Community service is at 1. The academic groups and honor societies are at 2:30, and then student leadership is at 4.
At 4. Okay.
And I can hold on. We'll be recording those sessions just the way we did this one too. So if you run into any problems, feel free to email me too if it conflicts with anything, and I'll send it off to you.
And
Okay,
you logged
thank
in
you.
the same way that you logged into this, the Rampulse, the Zoom link on Rampulse.
Yeah, it's the same Zoom link for tomorrow. No
Oh,
change.
the same one. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thanks, Rachel.
Have a
Thank you,
lovely
Lisa.
evening. And the sky is blue. Go enjoy the day.
Thank you.
All
The
right.
same
Have
to
a
you.
great night, everybody.
I actually have a question.
Sure, you got it.
Just because I know, and you mentioned that it was being recorded, so where would I go to, like,
Check them out.
yeah.
We are going to upload them onto the Student Activities Virtual Involvement Fair website. And I think I'm going to try to load it on my Student Activities and Leadership Rampulse page if it'll let me, because the files are kind of large, but I'm hoping it'll let me put them on there. But definitely, Alyssa has that Virtual Involvement Fair website, and that's where we'll load everything.
Okay.
And let me pull it up for you really quickly because I can see it. Hold on, screen share. And that way you can get the address right there. It is shepherd.edu/student leadership/involvement fair.
Yeah.
And that will be up all year round. So
Okay.
you'll be able to access that whenever you want. Sound good?
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you all have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Or maybe
Thank you.
tomorrow. Bye. Good
Bye.
night. That went way better than I expected.